way to make something like Doomsday Special, like just ridiculous,
Yeah.
where he like, oh, I'm going to punch you through the planet, then I'm going to go on the other side and punch you through the other side of the planet. Like, really, dude? Like, did you really need to do all that? Like, that seems a little bit excessive. I know you killed Superman, but come on.
Yeah. You know what? Then they trap him at one point in the planet. So
yeah, so it's like,
why
okay,
can't you just do that?
Yeah, apparently, you know, the Earth's core is nothing to Doomsday.
Yeah. But anyways, enough about what we thought about it. Let's go ahead and hand it over to JP and see what you have to say about your little half-hour play.
Yeah, well, I didn't play any of the story mode because I didn't want to get into it because I had read Matt post on Facebook saying that it's awesome. So I was just testing it for the review, and I enjoyed it, but I don't care for fighting games that much. So I was like, this is a great game. I'm going to buy it when it goes $20 on sale.
Because it's not Mickey Mouse Capades.
Mickey Mouse Capades wasn't a fighting game.
Yeah,
it was
exactly.
adventure.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And Zach?
Yeah, this may be shocking, but I don't even own a PS3 or Xbox or something, but there's a few games out there that I've played with my friends that really make me want to, like, get something like that. One of the two. Mm-hmm. This is one of those games, other being, like, Skyrim, some other stuff like Bioshock. I just want to have those to play. But that was a really awesome game. I think it was really good timing for DC as well, especially with the storyline and everything. Everybody knows how badass and awesome the Joker is after, like, Heath Ledger. And then with them starting the Justice League and Man of Steel, it's just... I think it's going to take off from there.
Yeah, nice. You know what? Because when we talked about the whole entire Justice League movie and what I said about it, like I was kind of skeptical that's actually going to be any good, you know? But it seems like WB and DC have been doing really well with their products. I mean,
well, that's the thing is like it seems like anything that Marvel is not doing well in, okay, like for instance, games, DC right now, they're doing awesome in games. Yeah. Animated movies, Marvel's not doing so good in that. No. DC, top notch. Movies, though, it's like, okay, Marvel like is there. they are like holding the bar.
Yeah.
And then it's like with DC, they have Batman, but now that franchise is over, they really don't. They're having to like, you know, step up their game. When it comes to like Injustice, I wish there was a Marvel game like this.
Yeah, you know what? Like don't get me wrong, Marvel vs. Capcom, I love the first two installments. The third one, I bought it. I really tried to force myself to love that game because I love the other two. I got rid of it so quick.
Yeah, I actually returned my copy too. The reason why, okay, I'm a big fan of the game. I'm really into competitive fighting games. You know, done the whole, like, you know, tournament thing a few times. The problem I have with Marvel vs. Capcom is, okay, it's no longer about skill. It's a gunslinging Wild West, whoever draws first. Because you have people that just do these infinite combos. And it's no longer about, like, okay, like you do some moves, I do some moves. It's about like, you know, like timing and like, you know, just being very methodical in that fight. It's just like whoever can land their combo first, and then you're just dead.
And then, like another thing that I can't stand is that like the air juggles and
yeah. At least with Injustice, okay, you have the same thing going on where people can have like these really good combos and they can air juggle you, but they developed a way that if you're getting your ass just handed to you and you haven't been able to land a hit, you can use special meter that you've been gaining from getting pummeled and cancel the combo that the guy's doing on you. And you do a wager.
Yeah, and a wager.
And I think that's great because that, you know, that makes it to where, okay, this guy is just beating the crap out of me.
It gives you a second chance.
Yeah, and you can, you know, either gain some more life or, you know, depending on how the wager goes.
Yeah.
I think that's ingenious.
Yeah, the combat system works really well. I mean, the combos, they are a little tough to get off sometimes, but once you master them, man, like it makes it really nice to know that you're playing against someone who knows what they're doing. They're running this huge combo on you, and you're like, oh crap, I'm gonna take a lot of damage. Like you said, you can just burn a meter and stop the combo.
Yeah.
And that right there, it just makes it more playable for everyone.
Yeah.
You know, because Marvel vs. Capcom, after you get your first air juggle like done to you, you never want to play it again. You know,
Yeah, it's very demoralizing.
Yeah.
You know, you get frustrated. You're
and
like,
out of all people, Wes is the one that demoralized me.
oh,
And he's the one that usually he's not that great in fighting games, but lately he's been.
oh yeah, that guy's funny. I remember he got super drunk, and we just handed him a controller that wasn't even plugged in, and he was just sitting there, and we're playing. He's just like, "I'm so good at this game, guys."
Yep.
Woo.
Yeah, I remember that night, and he's just like, I haven't had to hand out the controller. I've been winning. It's
You're like, yeah,
Wes, man,
you're doing
hella
good, man.
tonight,
Yeah,
you know?
yeah, keep it up. Okay, so originally we were going to do our fight, and we had it to where you, the listeners, were going to vote and, you know, bring in, you know, some discussion about who you wanted to see or listen to fight. We didn't get too many votes as we had wanted, but I'm going to talk a little bit about Solomon Grundy. I'm going to talk about, like, you know, why I think he's an awesome character, and he's a very underrated villain when it comes to the DC universe, or just, I mean, any universe, really. And also through that, I'm going to talk about why, if he was in this fight, it would just, you know, end with him angry and then a smashed up cabin. So, Solomon Grundy started his career off as a mobster, Cyrus Gold. I'm going mostly off of the animated Justice League series backstory for Solomon Grundy. There are some other ones, you know, but his being a comic book character, the origin of the character tends to change and, you know, grow over the years. But I'm going to stick to the episode of... God, what was the name of that episode? I don't know the name of the episode, but I'm going to just use that. Okay, so Cyrus Gold, a mobster, you know, into racketeering. You know, he was a wicked man who did wicked things and was very greedy. He ended up having his men ended up betraying him. They killed him, took his money. They cursed his body and then left his remains in a swamp, Slaughter Swamp, which is just outside of Gotham City. Well, the swamp itself had its own magical properties, and so these two different magical properties, they didn't set well with each other. So decades later, the swamp gave birth to this walking dead man, this hulking zombie known as Solomon Grundy. And the reason why he gets his name in the comics is that Grundy, when he came out of the swamp, he came across these two inmates, or these two like ex-cons that had broken out of prison, kills them, takes their clothes, then wanders into a hobo camp. One of the homeless people walks up to Solomon Grundy and says, like, "Hey, what's your name? You know, who are you?" And Cyrus Gold, not remembering his past or who he was or anything like that, he only remembered one thing about himself, is that he was born on a Monday. So that's the only thing he tells the homeless guy. He says, "Born on Monday." So the homeless guy's like, "Oh, like the Solomon Grundy nursery rhyme." Solomon Grundy is a nursery rhyme, a biblical nursery rhyme about a man who lives his life in 1 week. Born on Monday, christened on Tuesday, wedded on Wednesday, took ill on Thursday, got worse on Friday, died on Saturday, buried on Sunday. This is the life of Solomon Grundy. And so ever since then, that's what he's been known as. And Solomon Grundy, he basically picture the Hulk, who's just like, he's all white hair. He has the strength to match Superman. He can't die. Well, he could die, but he always comes back. He has a self reanimation kind of thing. And
Phone, Matt. What's wrong with you?
Well, I had it on
Just
silent.
yell-
It's on
just yell at Zach
silent
for that.
Yeah. Let's see here. Okay.
So what was that about, buddy?
Oh, it's just Ashley texting me.
Oh, you in trouble?
No. She's just wanting me to get in contact with a friend of ours about some movies that he ended up burning for us. So
Nice.
No piracy here, guys.
yeah. That didn't happen. All legal.
Home movies.
But so Solomon Grundy, you know, he's originally a Alan Scott, the original Green Lantern villain. He's been known to fight the entire Justice League by himself. He's a Superman villain. He's been a Batman villain. He was in the Long Halloween series with Batman. Sometimes he's portrayed as a humble, sympathetic character, like in the DC comic book show Justice League. Solomon Grundy gets approached by Aquaman and Dr. Fate. Basically, what's going on is there's this demon from another dimension called Ep4, who's basically DC's version of Cthulhu.
Nice.
And Ep4 is coming into this world, and he had been banished before by the sorcerer kings of Atlantis. They kind of reveal that Atlantis was at one point in time ruled by sorcerer kings. Like Poseidon is actually not a deity; he is actually the first king of Atlantis, sorcerer king. And Poseidon had banished Ep4 from this realm, but at the cost of Atlantis, floating above the ocean. So it ended up sinking. So years later, or decades or millennia later, Ep4 is coming back. And so Dr. Fate gets Aquaman and Solomon Grundy, and they're kind of the DC version of the Defenders. Defenders being a Marvel comic team with Doctor Strange, the Hulk, and Namor. And I actually liked this version a lot better than the Marvel version because it made a little more sense. It was all magic based. And so Dr. Fate reveals to Grundy his origins. He tells him the reason why he's always been wandering around and looking for something is that he's empty inside. He's missing his soul. And so Grundy's like, oh, Grundy want to help. Grundy want what men took from him. Grundy want Grundy's soul. So they try to do this like ritual, but Superman, Wonder Woman, and Hawkgirl jump in, and they just see Grundy's like in pain and stuff, and they're just like, "Oh, stop!" And they get into a fight. So basically, it's a two-parter episode. Grundy and some of the JLA members go into the realm of Ep4 to try and stop him there, and Grundy ends up befriending Hawkgirl. He calls her like Bird Nose, which is a reference to Darkhawk from the Defenders, who was actually a member of the Defenders. And so they befriend each other. Grundy has a lot of like funny one-liners in the show, and Grundy actually ends up saving Hawkgirl from Ep4. He ends up like, he believes that Ep4, this soul-eating monster, has Grundy's soul, and he's like, "Give Grundy's soul back, Snakeface. Give Grundy your Grundy crush." And at the end, Grundy ends up, basically sacrificing himself to help the others. And as he's like laying there dying, and it's also the really cool thing about this episode is that it's kind of about, because it's all about like, okay, like Hawkgirl, she doesn't understand faith. She doesn't have faith. And then, Grundy being like this very simple-minded, zombie, that's all he has. He just has to go off of what these people are telling him. And so Grundy, he's dying, and like Hawkgirl is like, over him, and she's like, rest, you'll be fine. And Grundy says, Bird Nose, you think Grundy's soul is waiting for him? And she's like, oh, Grundy, I don't. Yeah, it's waiting for you. And he's like, oh, then Grundy gets his reward. And they bury him. They bury him in the manner of in human customs, and on his tombstone it says Solomon Grundy, born on Monday. And Aquaman, or was it Hawkgirl? She ends up saying to Aquaman, at the end he was still hopeful, and I didn't understand that. And Aquaman says, it's faith, Hawkgirl. You either have it or you don't. And I was like, oh my God, this is just such a touching story. I'm like tearing up here, and like before I was a Grundy fan just because he was a cool character. He was like a giant zombie, but now I'm like, I'm a Grundy fan because of this episode. So
they gave him a lot of character.
Oh yeah. And it's like I would love it if Grundy was that all the time. But that's why I'm a Solomon Grundy fan. He's hands down my favorite villain. But also too, I feel that if Grundy was going to be in this fight with the Deadites, I feel that if he was in the fight with both the original Deadites, both the modern Deadites, both the Monster Squad, no one could do anything to him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He would just mow through everyone, smash that cabin to nothing. If there was a giant like tree trying to tangle him up, he'd rip the tree in half.
Yeah.
You know,
You tangled the tree.
yeah. If some like crazy like girl is like cutting her tongue in front of him, he'd be like, "Gross girl, smash, boom."
Yeah.
Yep.
So
so-
that's why I don't feel Grundy would do well against this fight.
Yeah.
Because it would just be too one sided. So that
Solomon Grundy, he can't